Hello, sports fans, and welcome to the set of You Say Maize, I Say Blue, alongside Wolf Sports Director Danny Sass.
I love that title. That's like twice you've done that now.
It sounds good, so I'm just going to roll with it. That's Danny Sass. I am Chris Cichon. I've been doing this for 3 years. You know who we are. Big week this week. I think there's a game on Saturday that's pretty big, maybe the biggest of the year.
No idea what you're talking about.
Oh, really? Oh, well, this year I guess that would make sense, huh?
Oh, the Ohio State, you're referring to the football thing
where
the 3-8 team plays the team.
You know, the biggest game of the year.
Not worried about it.
Well, yeah, you'll see what we mean in just a few minutes. Danny, you can go ahead and say Maize. I'm going to say Blue. As in, wouldn't it be nice if we got a repeat in this big game of 1902? When Michigan blew out Ohio State, 86-0. That's what I'm looking forward. Maybe we'll get a repeat of that on Saturday.
You can go ahead and say Blue. I'm going to say Maize. And I would be completely and utterly amazed if Michigan put up.
It can happen. It can happen.
Close to 86
Nick
points.
Sheridan, I can see him easily going 40 for 50, six touchdowns.
Chris, I'm going to tell you right here. This is one of the boldest predictions I've ever made on the set of You Say Maize, I Say Blue. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well. Chris, we saw what this Michigan team did against Northwestern. Yeah. We saw what they've done now for 11 games this season. 8 losses on the season now. And, I mean, how symbolic was that weather? You were at the big house on Saturday, I'm sure.
Unfortunately.
I left in the second quarter, lips blue, muscles spazzing, socks wet. I sound all poetic trying to describe this. I was miserable, the game was miserable, the team was miserable, and the season's been miserable. Yeah. What's gone wrong?
I mean, what's gone wrong? I mean, what hasn't gone wrong?
Sum it up in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think we need like an hour documentary just to scratch the surface on that, Danny. You said it right when you said 8 losses. Mm-hmm. That's what went wrong. That's never happened here in Ann Arbor, ever. I looked through the records. Never have they lost 8 games in the season. 7, sure, never 8. And so that's why, I mean, Rich Rodriguez, you just need to man up and say that, hey, I'm the worst coach in the history of Michigan football right now because I'm the only coach that's ever lost 8 games. So, you know, and I'm going to come after him. You want to come after the fans like you did in your Monday press conference and tell them to get a life? You get a life and win some games. Your coach, that should be your life, and he's not winning the games. Regardless, before I get angry here, that Northwestern game was pretty bad. I mean, it was cold. Dan.
And, I mean, it's so frustrating, Chris, just to watch this team come out and start the game off. You know, I know. You know, we were here in the big house, you and I, watching them play Michigan State, you know, a few weeks ago, and to see this team get off on such a high note, to get pressure on the quarterback, force turnovers, build some sort of excitement, and then give it away so quickly. You know, that first drive, Michigan goes play, pick. Yeah. You know, boom, they pick off C.J. Bechet. They build something. Everything's looking nice and great. Offense stalls inside the 10, and the field goal gets blocked. And just like that, it's the same old Michigan offense, the same Michigan offense that struggles to move the ball, the same Michigan offense that gets absolutely nothing going on offense. And lo and behold, you're held to 14 points, 7 of them off a blocked punt. It's just not going to get it done. And, you know, that whole second half when all Michigan needed was 1 score to tie the game, 1 score to tie the game, 1 score to tie the game. Yep. And they couldn't even sniff the end zone. I mean, it's an anemic offense that occasionally gets some spurt out of their running games. They've been plagued by their quarterback all year long. Mm-hmm. The creativity from the coaching staff is nowhere to be seen. And obviously the weather played an issue, Chris, but you know, when you're as inept as this offense has been all season, you're not going to get much out of it.
No cohesion on either side of the ball. Either the offense plays good, the defense doesn't, or then there's a turnover, special teams gives up a big play. It's just all year that's been the story basically. So now with that, we'll just move right into the Ohio State-Michigan game this Saturday, 12 o'clock down in Columbus in the Shoe. You know, Danny, I must admit, this is the least excited I've ever been on this show for this game.
You know, as we were talking just before this, Chris, about how in the past, you know, you and I have previewed this game. You know, we dressed up all formal, shirts and ties last year. You know, we had the whole preview section where we broke down each aspect.
The whole section of the show.
You know, we would do Michigan's run offense versus Ohio State's run defense, Michigan's passing game, special teams, coaching, all the intangibles. And this year, you're getting a 3-minute preview, so enjoy it. Because truth be told,
it doesn't matter.
You don't need myself, you don't need Chris to tell you this game is not going to be close. Vegas has the line currently set at Ohio State is a 19-point favorite.
Most ever.
I think that's ridiculously low if you look at the way these two teams are playing. I mean, Chris, let's be real. That's a low line. And I think Vegas is kind of banking on the fact that, you know, hey, let's throw out the records here. This is Michigan. This is Ohio State. Each team is going to be fired up. They're going to rely on passion. They're going to rely on grit. They're going to rely on determination. You know, this isn't going to come down to skill or speed, which Ohio State has a blatant advantage in. I don't think Michigan's going to be that fired up, to tell you the truth, which is disappointing.
Well, you know, I think they will, and I don't think it's going to be that big of a blow. I think it can easily be a blowout, but I think it can also, at the same token, I think it can be a very close game. It's Michigan-Ohio State. It's going to be that way.
How do you see this turning into a close game?
Well, I think, you know, the defense is just going to have to show up and play. And a lot of seniors on that defense. You know, Terrence Taylor's going to be pumped up. His last game wearing the maize and blue. But I mean, the offense, that's the thing. I think if Ohio State scores 7 points, they can win this game.
Absolutely.
Because I think Michigan's going to be lucky if they score at all in this game offensively, that is. Their defense is easily one of the nation's best. You remember last year when Michigan had, was it 5 guys that are now NFL players on the offensive side of the ball? How many yards of offense did they have last year?
Hardly any.
91. 91 with Jake Long on your offensive line. And now take away those 5 NFL players. You think they're going to move the ball at all against this team? In Columbus, in that environment, with all these younger players, are you kidding me? They will be lucky if they score. Nick Sheridan went 8 of 29 last week. That's less than 28% for all you math majors.
And I mean,
there.
if you think, Chris, if you think the offense is going to be bad, I mean, just go over to the other side of the ball as well. I mean, okay, you take a guy in Terrell Pryor.
You just said it right there.
Justin Siller from Purdue, their 3rd-string quarterback, is carving the Michigan defense, like it's a turkey on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Nice little Thanksgiving reference. Happy Thanksgiving coming up in a week or so. If Justin Siller is carving up this Michigan defense, Terrell Pryor is going to run wild. I mean, every single running quarterback has just eaten up this Michigan defense over the last, 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Decade, let's put it that way.
Fair enough.
McNabb did it in 99.
Pryor's going to do the same. Then you have a running back in Beanie Wells.
He's big and strong. He's going to run you over.
If Javon Ringer was able to put up 194 and a few touchdowns on the ground, Beanie Wells is going to do the exact same thing. You remember that scamper he had last year?
Right here.
In the big house. Yeah. He's going to run wild up in Columbus. Yeah. And then you have those 2 receivers, the Bryans, Hartline and Rubisky. Yeah. I mean, if Purdue's receivers can carve this secondary apart, and Utah's receivers can carve this secondary apart, and Lance Moore from Purdue, or Nate Moore, or one of the Moore brothers, Statboy can correct me on that, whichever Moore brother is currently at Toledo, if he can carve this defense, just imagine with Brian Hartline and Brian Rubisky.
One more poke I got at Rodriguez. Danny, when was the last time the first Michigan coach lost the Buckeyes in his first chance? 1929, Harry Kipke. That's 80 years ago, and Kipke was, I think, the worst coach in the history. So now Rodriguez...
He has a street named after him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, right near the stadium, that street that goes left.
I don't know how they worked that out. I guess they just needed the name.
Like
they just
Kipke
needed a name.
Boulevard or something.
They're screaming, we got to go. We're going to switch from football in the biggest game to Mark Cuban and over in the NBA. And, he's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and he just recently got accused by the Securities and Exchange Commission of giving...
it's that SEC. It's not the
no.
It's not the
I know you got mixed up.
Defense SEC.
I know you got mixed up there, but yeah. So the SEC's coming after him for insider trading. Saved only $750,000, which is chump change to Mark Cuban. But what are the implications of this, Danny?
So
I think they're
you want to know
big.
why this is really ironic, and I'll interject just really quickly here. So Mark Cuban financed something called Share Sleuth. We talked about it in one of my communications classes. Share Sleuth was a website dedicated to uncovering fraud in publicly traded companies. Pretty much it was Share Sleuth was dedicated to uncovering the exact same thing that Mark Cuban is guilty of. The reason this is news, obviously, is Cuban had a bid of $1.3 billion in to buy the Chicago Cubs. He was... Right now, I mean, you have to say before this whole thing broke, he was among the favorites to land the Cubs to buy this team.
Well, already we were hearing whispers that the owners of the Major League Baseball, who have to approve that sale, that they don't like him and they don't want him in their league. And this is only going to go and solidify that feeling.
Just last week, we had our very own Andrew Olmstead on air talking about how important it was to give Mark Cuban a shot to really expand, to turn baseball out of that grown men, old boys club.
This ain't going to help.
And let Mark Cuban in there, a fiery personality. Sorry, Andrew Olmstead, it doesn't look like Cuban's going to get that. Yeah. And you have the Mavs fading faster than we know what to do.
3-7, the bottom of the division.
Not a good week for the Cuban family.
Not at all.
Chris, we're going to move